Welcome to part 2 of how to start 3D printing. And in the first part, we pretty much gave an introduction for people out there that aren't familiar at all with 3D printing, how it actually works. And we also got into the software aspect of it, how to download free CAD software on the internet, how to design a simple part, how to download slicer software like Cura, generate a G-code file for the printer. So today in this video, we're going to be taking that file and actually printing the part that we created. And then we're going to go and look at some different printers out there and look at current prices on them and so forth, because that's another aspect of this video, is to show you that for less than $300 you can buy everything you need to get started with 3D printing. The printers we'll be looking at range from $150 to $200, and filament runs about $15 to $20 a roll. You can pick a color. You'd be starting out with PLA. So once you've got your printer and your filament, you're pretty much ready to go. Just download the software and figure out how to use it. There's a lot of tutorials on the YouTube that'll help you with that. So let's get going. To recap, what we did in part 1 was created a square block with a round ball sitting on top of it. This was done by downloading a product called Tinkercad and using it to create a 3D drawing. Then we saved that 3D drawing on our computer. Next, we loaded a software product called Cura, which did the slicing of our 3D file, and from that generated a G-code file. And the G-code file will be used by the printer to print the part. We took the G-code file and copied it to a micro SD card and plugged that into our printer. Now we're ready to start printing. We're loading some gray filament and running a little bit of it through the extruder just to clean out some old black filament that we were running before. Now let's go ahead and start printing. And as you can see, it's printing a band around the bottom of what's going to be our part. This is called brim, and it's printing it because we didn't change any of the default settings on our slicer, and it was set up for that. Now the printer's going ahead and starting to print the actual part that we created, the square with the round ball on top. So we're going to sit back and watch this thing go ahead and print. Now if you notice, our round ball now is white instead of gray, and the reason for this is that we paused the printer between the block and the ball and changed our filament to white. This is a little thing that you can do. Okay, as you can see, this is located kind of off center on this build plate. That's because it thinks it's an ET4, and the build plate would be much larger here. This would be the center of that, but no big problem. So we take the part off, take a look at it. We have some brim around here. This stuff just pretty much peels off. and then you have your block. Got some distortion on the top. This is because without going in and doing settings exact, I had a small infill which had large openings at the top, and I also had been printing PETG with this printer, and I believe the nozzle has some buildup in it and causing the filament stream to be thinner than normal, and it didn't really fill in all of these little holes, but basically it made the part that we did in our Tinkercad. Okay, let's check out eBay for some printers. 3D printers. We're going to start price plus shipping, lowest first. New printers and buy it now price. So let's take off here. It looks like we have some in under $100 here. These are simple little printers. I don't care too much for them. You know, they show them for kids, but I don't know that they're any safer than any other printer, the kids, because they still extrude hot filament. Now, here's something caught my eye. Okay, if you think you're going to do some resin printing, this is a real good price on these Anycubic resin printers, the Photon Zero. So for $109, that's not a bad deal. Here's the Creality Ender 3 printer for $143.99, free shipping. Let's take a little closer look at it. Okay, you can kind of see the assembly looks pretty simple on this one. Yeah, it's relatively simple. I've assembled this same printer before, and it's a good printer. The Ender 3 is very popular. A lot of people have used it. Really good price there. They usually run about $149. I really like the metal frame printers a lot more, because these acrylic based printers like this Skitech, when you go in here and look at it, there you go. This is what I was wanting to show you. See all that right there? That's 10 million parts you have to put together, nuts and bolts and screws. So these acrylic frame printers, for a new person that's never put one together, it could take you almost a full day, but it's definitely going to take several hours to put one of these things together just by the time. A lot of times acrylic parts have a paper coating, protective coating on them, and it can take you 30 to 45 minutes just to peel off all that protective coating. But the advantage of that, once you've built one of these things from scratch and put it together, you've learned an awful lot about how the printer works. So that would be, I think, the advantage of having one of these. Xfico X3S, I have one of these. They're a reasonably priced printer. Seem to work all right. Okay, here we go. Maynet ET4X printer. Printer I know quite a bit about. I've got several of these. $157. And let's look at it a little closer. Now, if you look at this one, you see there are very few parts to it compared to the acrylic printers, but still the ET4X has several pieces that have to be assembled. The ET4 and the ET4 Pro come with almost everything pre-assembled, 95% assembled. This one I would consider about 80 to 85% assembled, but it is metal frame. It's a good printer. You can watch a lot of videos that I have where I've been running these things. Got a bunch of them down at the new print farm. And $157. Now we've got the Kingroom KP3S. This is similar to the Kingroom printers that I've been using, and it comes pretty much assembled. Yeah, this is basically how it comes. You just put this piece on, hook up the power supply, a few easy steps, and it's ready to go. So very easy installation on the Kingroom. It is a smaller printer. It prints 180 by 180 instead of the standard 220 by 220. But 180 by 180 works well for me on a lot of things, especially prototyping. Takes up a very small space, as you can see. For $168 KP3S, I haven't purchased one of these yet, so I don't know exactly what improvements they've made. The regular KP3s had resume print, filament out sensor, 24-volt power supply, heated bed, can handle ABS, just about anything, removable magnetic build sheet that's easy for removing parts and everything. So it's a good printer. Here we go. Here's our Monoprice Mini Delta. I believe I did a video that included this, or maybe a couple of them. But the Monoprice Mini Delta, if you want a Delta printer, they print fast. They are the simplest things. This thing comes out of the box and you're printing in 10 minutes. You basically just plug it up and go. It's all ready to go. It's real easy to print. You don't have to level the bed. You don't have to do anything. It does everything automatically. I love these Delta printers. I love to watch them print. They're like little inverted spiders in there, just working like crazy, building a web. So $180, that's a fair price for the Mini Deltas. Here's our Anet ET4 for $189. Definitely, compared to the ET4X, the ET4 is a better printer for a couple of reasons. One, it does have automatic bed leveling, which once you've got the printer set up and initially leveled, that can save you from having to make adjustments as you go along. You'll still have to do some adjustment over time, but other than that, the biggest thing I like about it is if you go to the installation, all that you have to do is just, this upright is already assembled, your motors are all intact, you put it together, very simple, with about 4 screws, then you come up and you put the drive belt on. You can assemble this printer in about 15 minutes. It's very fast. I think I assembled some of them on some videos because we have several of them down at the print farm. Anyway, it's a 220 by 220. Okay, here we come to another Anet printer, the Anet A8 Plus for $199, $200. It's a 300 by 300 by 350 millimeters. So this is a larger, much larger build area on this printer, as you can see. I will say one thing about it. The assembly on this thing is like some of the others. You have to do a lot of assembly. This takes a few hours for somebody that knows what they're doing to assemble. You pretty much assemble it from scratch. Once you're finished, for the price, you have a pretty good quality printer printing a large format, 300 by 300 millimeters. The Anet A8 Plus for $200. Here's the Tronic CXY2 Pro. I have these at the print farm also. This is a 255 by 255 build plate, so it's larger than your standard printers like the Anet ET4s and the Creality Ender 3s and so forth. So for $200, can't go wrong there. You can see a lot of those running at my print farm also. Tronic CXY2 Pro. Another printer you might want to look at is this FLSun Q5. The FLSun Q5 is a Delta printer, $239 on eBay, and it's a little larger, quite a bit larger than the Monoprice. The assembly, there is a little bit of assembly involved with this, but very little. Just attaching the arms, top and bottom plate, and that's about it. So it's a very simple and quick assembly. And if you go down and look at the specs on it, it pretty much does automatic leveling. It's a 200 millimeter circular build plate and 200 millimeters tall. So it's a pretty good size for a Delta printer. And again, this is basically the assembly. You take the base, put these 3 posts on it, put the top on, and add these arms. And then you're in business. Put your filament holder up here on top. And like I said, these things are really neat to watch. I don't know if I have any raw video of them or not. I may have to go upstairs and print something on one of them and video tape it so you can see how they operate. Here we have the FLSun Delta printer, and we're currently loading the filament. Last time we printed some orange, so we're getting that orange out of there and running some white. So just let it run a minute here and clean out that nozzle, and then we'll be ready to print. Okay, we're about ready to start our printing here. We're preheating our bed, and everything's just about preheated. As soon as it gets preheated, we'll see what this, show you how this Delta printer works. One thing that's very important to me is that you don't get discouraged if you're starting and wanting to get into 3D printing. Go ahead and take the effort. It's not that hard to do. I think you'll find it very rewarding. I have. And if you need any help, leave a comment, ask questions. I'm more than happy to help anyone with the limited knowledge that I have. I'd like to see anyone that is wanting to get into 3D printing to be able to successfully get into it and not be discouraged. I've heard of people getting a printer and getting frustrated because they weren't able to get it to print, or it wouldn't print correctly, or they didn't know how to do things. When I first started, believe me, I knew nothing. I didn't realize, I thought at first that you could take an STL file and put it on the chip and plug it into the printer and print the 3D object you created. So that's how naive I was. And of course, I found out very quickly that that wouldn't work, that you had to use some slicer software. And I could have used a little help. I admit I could have moved along a little faster those first few weeks if someone had given me a little bit of direction. Me being stubborn, I'm the kind of guy that opens up something that has to be assembled and completely ignores the instructions because I think I can figure it out on my own. That's kind of the way it was with 3D printing. I figured, well, I ought to be able to figure this out. And I did, but like I said, it would be a lot easier if I had had a little bit of help. So that's what I want to do for anyone out there getting started or that is having a little bit of trouble or something. Just ask questions, and you can go all over YouTube and find a number of people that have videos that are so helpful. It's worth taking some time and watching those YouTube videos. YouTube is a good platform for getting information that you need to be successful, but it's also a good platform to put information out there that might be helpful for other people. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is put things out there that I've learned, and hopefully make it a little bit easier for the next guy coming along. Kind of like when you go through the jungle, you have to fight your way through the brush and everything, but you want to leave a path for the next guy so it's a little easier for him. What an analogy. How dumb am I? And that's